My name is Brett, and in this module we are going to begin getting into language fundamentals. So what I'm going to do is create a new project in Netbeans. So I'm going to just do File, New, and I am going to call this one Module 2, and Finish. All right, so over here we have our source files. So I'm going to open up that folder and then open up my main.cpp. And there's nothing in here right now. We're going to start adding our content. All right, so just to kind of explain a few things here going on in this file. So we have the standard library. That's what this include is doing there. We have this namespace, which is giving us access to different features inside of the standard library. So down here, if I do something like cout and hello world, which we did see earlier, and I'm going to do semicolon, and I'm going to include IO stream save. Now I'm pulling this C out from within here, so that's why I am including it. All right, and so the way this is working, it's saying take this hello world, these arrows, and then push it into the console out. That's what it basically means. So if I run it, then we'll see again the end result of this, which we get our hello world. All right, so we return 0 on this. This is actually implied. So a C++ comment is like this with 2 slashes, forward slashes. So I'm going to save my file. I am going to run again, and notice everything is fine. So I'm going to build just to make sure, and run, and we get the same output. So it's really implied, but it's explicit here that we have this return 0. So our function is main. That's the entry point of our application. It's an int type. That's why we can return this 0. Then we have a few arguments. We're not using arguments right now, but these are default. They need to be there. So you have an integer, then you have this char star star, which is basically pointing, and we'll get into those more as we progress throughout the course. All right, so we have our hello world, and I am actually going to do a few other different things here with our outputs. And let's go ahead and create a different kind of string here. So defining variables. These are just some of the items we're going to work on. I want 2 carriage returns, so I'm doing this \n for new line. I'm doing 2 of them, which should give me 2 new lines. And I'm going to do another line here and say something like the following are some important data types in C++, and I'm going to do my new lines, and I'll end it with a semicolon. So that's a line terminator, and we always need those when we're terminating a line of code. All right, so we're going to do another cout here, and I'm going to say character, and just point to this char save. Let's go ahead and run this now so we can see the output that we're getting, and there we are. So a little bit of formatting we have going on here, and you can see our other is right there. And actually, if I remove some of these, because it might group better on these topics there. So if I run that one, everything is grouped a little bit more closely. And we can do a few more of these. So integer signed. These are just a lot of the ones we are going to be covering. And we have these types: int, long, double. And then as well, we have boolean, which just looks like bool. And then we have floating type, and that is going to be float. All right, so now let's get into the meat of things, and I'm going to put a comment here. Now we are going to define variables, and this is just going to be a simple one for an age. So I'm going to do an int age. My variable is called age, as you can see now, of type int, and I will give it an integer of 10 and save. So not really anything to do there. We're not going to see any kind of effect. If I run our application, all we're seeing is our string output at this point, because we've done no manipulations and haven't try to output any kind of result from this particular variable. So let's define a few more variables. So we'll create float age. That's going to be 10.1. And notice here that the variables are preceded by their types. That is important. You must do that in C++. Now we're going to create a character, and that is just going to be an A. Let's go ahead and output these. So we're now going to combine a string and our value together. So value of age int variable, and I'll do it like that. So when I want to add an actual variable into my string, I can just continue with these arrows, do age, and now I want a line, so I'm going to do another string and save. So if I run this, you can see here value of age int variable. So we've combined our value and a string in this case, but let's keep going with some of these others. So value, and I need to do my double quotes there, value of age float variable. And we can again do our arrows, age, and then we'll do a new line, save. Let's go ahead and grab the character. So we'll say value of character variable, and we'll do char a and add a new line, save and run. So there we are with our output. Now let's do something as well, and you can see here we're getting this little light bulb over here, assign return value to new variable. We don't need to worry about that right now, but I am going to put a breakpoint on this line 36. So I'm just clicking in the margins so we can see what's going to happen with that debugger. Now, if I run this, notice everything just ran and nothing happened. What we want with this breakpoint is to stop right here. So I'm going to run this one over here, which is our debug project. Let that go, and we're going to end up stopping. Now I'm going to just start walking through this code. So step over, step over, step. There's our breakpoint. Down here, we have a few tabs. So I've got our variables, and you can see there's nothing being assigned because we don't have any variables yet. They're all a little further down on line 31. So I'll keep stepping over and watch down in our variables what's going to happen with age. Now we can see these start getting values, and we'll let that go. And I'm just going to go ahead and let that run out and complete our program. I'm just going to remove this breakpoint and go to our output, and let's see, going to go ahead and try to get that to complete. All right, there we go. Now it's starting again, but I don't want to do that. So that is what happens when you set a breakpoint and get it to stop wherever you want it to. Now in this case, I think there is a setting that will stop it in main. If you're running in the main, it will just start walking through it as you start doing your debugging session. Now let's take this variable age, and I'm going to go ahead and set a breakpoint there and let that run. Now we stop on the first line, but I want to get down here to age. I'm going to bring up our variables tab again. So what I'm going to do is let it go ahead and continue. So I'll click this green button up here at the top. It's going to jump down to my breakpoint on line 32. Age is still 0 at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this now. And what we're going to do, we have our age right here on line 35. So I'm going to run this one more time, continue on down, and just start walking down there. And let's see here where our age is. Let's see right here. So age int is 0, so it initialized to 0. Now one thing to be aware of is that you can't always be sure that's actually going to happen. And if we look at our variables, notice this one over here, this argv and argc has 1. Sometimes these can get garbage in them, and it's good to initialize them, which is what we did here. And we had set that to just regular 10, like that. so that we do have a value, and I need my equals, and it's not going to have, say, a garbage initialization value. We're quite sure what the value is. So something to be aware of. It's good to initialize variables as you're creating them. Okay, so this is a look at some of the basic variable types and assignments with them. What we're going to do next is start getting into some operations and also take a look at constants.